Hello MJ friends, gonna do a few less tickers than usual. Got a fast moving bug, just hit me 3 hours ago and it's already wearing at my throat. So CGC tried to get some follow through again today. We're still just right in this tightening pattern. At this point we know this equilibrium like the back of our hands and we're patiently waiting for a break. We have the higher low at 44.97, that's the key support level. Resistance is 48.01. Probably gonna get a break this week, but look at how tight this range is the last 4 days, every day. Very tight range, and we're watching for a volume spike for when the break is going to occur. FOMC tomorrow with the S&P 500. You should tune into my S&P 500 video to get an update on what's going on over there. But federal policy implementation and guidance going forward is coming tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, which usually gives a nice little spike of volatility in the sector. And SPY just started giving us, or I should say spike of volatility in the markets. SPY just started giving us a pullback today for the first time in 8 days. Overall, sector held up pretty well in the face of that consolidation. We had a strong start in the morning to a lot of names. We do have signs of a shift in momentum with some profit taking, with some weaker closes. But let's look at who's standing out in which different ways. APHA, so we knew it was all about 1068 resistance, and so did the bears because they defended that level and rejected the price by 1 penny. So we start the morning, and we start the morning in the first 10 minutes rejecting from that resistance and heading right back down to the low of the day. Now we held the low of the day, so that was a bit of a sigh of relief short term, but as soon as we fail again, that's 2 failures in the first 20 minutes. Can we break resistance? No. We hold the low of the day. Can we break it? Nope. And we break the low of the day. That right there completely shifts your momentum on the morning. And now you're looking at hourly consolidation as soon as the low of the day breaks. So hourly consolidation ended up pulling back all the way to 10.11, which is still a higher low. We take off extended hours. Because we ran so hard yesterday, we still have an hourly uptrend at this point. At the end of the day, we rejected from 1045 resistance, and if we're going to lose this hourly uptrend, it would mean tomorrow we have to break 1011. If the bulls are going to hold on, that means we have to break 1045. So we're watching those 2 key levels short term. If we do break support on the daily, we zoom out and we have tons of space to work with. Anything above 936 is a higher low. It's a bit of the scenario that we talked about yesterday. Number one, the volume impressive, but not increasing, and a bit of back and forth with bull and bear volume today rather than just being a lot of bull volume. But it was the resistance. Inability to break resistance in combination. I pointed out how SPY was bullish in a bullish environment and how this laggard move on APHA might just not have that timing right, because if SPY starts to pull back, it's going to slow down this move. So in my opinion, if the S&P 500 were green today and did not pull back the whole second half of the day, APHA probably would have closed right up near that resistance. Because we had weakness in the S&P 500, in my opinion, is just imagine, if you have a field that you have to walk to as a bull and your goal is at the end of that, and that's resistance is 1068 is at the end of the field. The SPY weakness doesn't make it impossible to get to your destination, but it's going to pick up that incline a little bit. So you're now going to be walking uphill towards your destination as opposed to potentially maybe walking downhill if SPY were in a bullish environment. So that can change, just as I talk about with the currents, it's whether you're swimming with the current or against the current with what the S&P 500 is doing. So it's all about those short-term ranges, and how they break is going to dictate whether we're going to test the double top at 1068 or whether we need another daily higher low to form. ACB, profit taking, again, we're so overextended. We've seen gap up opens now pretty much 4 out of the last 5 days. So consolidation day today, we hit the high of the day, we pulled back to the low, and just looking at it on the 15-minute time frame, high of the day, low of the day, inability to break resistance by 6 pennies, and that's pre-market. So high of pre-market, consolidation low, inability to break the high of pre-market, we pull back and set the low of the day, and then it's just lower highs and lower lows from there. And we did end with a 15-minute equilibrium. TRST had a 15-minute equilibrium, and TGOD, I believe, had a 15-minute equilibrium at the end of the day. Always a bummer when those don't play out, because ACB on the US side of things is probably going to see an open tomorrow that may break these levels without seeing the true break during regular price action. But the bottom line is we're clearly consolidating on this hourly time frame. There's no major red flags. Like I said, we're either going to need to pull back and form a higher low on the daily. Anything on the daily above 733 is a higher low. So the bulls have tons of space to work with. And if we break the low of today, 984, that tells us that the daily consolidation is underway. Bull scenario would be holding 984 support and delaying, at least temporarily, that daily consolidation. CRON was unable to break its resistance, 2234. So far out of the major names, all the daily key resistances that we highlighted, aside from ACB, which got that strong start, but everybody else didn't break the resistance they needed to on the daily. Anything under 2234 is just a lower high. CRON closed with a bit of weakness, and we're now trading within this range that we have been within for 8 days. So while SPY has gone bull mode for 8 days, CRON has gone sideways. And the range is 2036 to 2234. It's a 10% range, absolutely, but we've been within it for 8 days, and we are likely going to stay within it, it looks like, at least for potentially another day or two, as we are right in the middle of it. TLRY, earnings reaction, gap up for profit taking in a big way, bearish engulfing candlestick, and we're back down to the lows of the reaction. 67.10 is that level of support to be watching, and then 64.45, the low of the entire pullback. So a big time fake out, and certainly not any kind of strength. New resistance is 75.55. Not surprising we rejected from there. Why is it not surprising? Because 75.25 was the key support level on this tight equilibrium that broke bearish. Now we have backtested and rejected from previous key support, now resistance, and we're heading back down towards the low of the recent pullback. OGI on the daily didn't get that all-time high, but we're closing in on it. Same thing as everybody else. If we lose the hourly uptrend, we're going to be looking for daily consolidation for a higher low. The bulls have some comfortability in the sector because most everybody has good space to still maintain daily higher lows and keep the daily uptrend. Here on OGI, high of the day, low of the day, lower high on the hourly. So 917 to 933 are the key levels. Break 933 and we're looking back at 938 and the all-time high of 950. Break bearish below 917 and we lose the hourly uptrend. So we zoom out to the daily and we look for a daily higher low compared to 879, which we are still a good ways above. TRST, break of 1320, but profit taking. There's that equilibrium on the 15-minute at the end of the day. Very solid equilibrium. So again, no red flags. You look at that hourly consolidation, and that is pretty ideal so far. Nice and contained, cooling off the RSI level significantly. Looking to our support levels for tomorrow, 1297 and 1294. If they break, daily inside bar is a likely scenario, and we'll be looking at 1268 as the next support after that. And if we break bullish, we have to get over 1330 to be looking up at the high of the day. So how we break tightening ranges is going to dictate the morning momentum for tomorrow, and it's going to dictate for everybody whether we're seeing daily consolidation for higher lows or going to look back up at some resistance levels. HEXO, clear profit-taking day on a big gap up open. Again, no major red flags on the consolidation. We're looking for an hourly higher low to form. Inside bar, bear break, inside bar, bell ring, end of the day. If we break 905, we zoom out to the daily and look for daily consolidation to form the higher low. If we hold 905, it's a daily inside bar, most likely, and that would be the best case scenario for the bulls. So up at the all-time high, which is obviously ideal scenario, but again, this just shows us to a certain degree, if there's no news behind your bull move in terms of the move today, that the S&P 500, well, there's multiple factors at play here. I was going to say that the S&P 500 is, dictating, do we get follow through and the big kind of bull move for blue sky breakout that we've been seeing on VFF and some of these other names, or do we putter out? So I think it's the S&P 500 puttering out at the second half of the day, but also absolutely can't disregard the fact that at this point we had run 40% in 8 days of trading. So this consolidation was due either way, even though we did break that resistance. A lot of the buying had taken place before that resistance broke. So I think it's a combination of those two factors as to why we did not get follow through. But again, another name with a ton of space on the daily to just look for a higher low to form. T-God, beautiful follow through. Also with a big upper wick. Hourly chart here. Pretty much the exact same chart as TRST. 15-minute equilibrium at the end of the day. 545 and 537 are supports tomorrow. And resistance is going to be 560 and 569. So tighter and tighter, and a break's coming tomorrow. If it's a bear break, we zoom out to the daily. Probably a daily inside bar, but if it's a clear bear break under 522, the low of today, which I would be surprised if that happened, but if it does, we will look for a higher low on the daily, just like everybody else. Daily uptrends are not in jeopardy for anybody here, aside from CGC and CRON pretty much. Everybody else has a lot of space to work with. VFF, top is in for now, in my opinion. Look at the closes. So the close at the low of the day often indicates we have a bull move, close at the low of the day, indicates 3 days of consolidation, 2 days of consolidation. And another one, close at the low of the day, consolidation, close at the low of the day, odds favor consolidation. Momentum is favoring the bears in the short term. On the daily chart, anything above 1630 is a higher low. We know the weekly chart is due for consolidation, so we're just keeping that in the back of our minds, but we're likely to hold the daily uptrend this time around. So the most likely scenario on how we're going to see the signal that weekly consolidation is coming is we're going to pull back and form a higher low in the low $18 range. Then we would see a bounce attempt, be unable to get a new all-time high, and then drop down to a lower low. That's the scenario that we would watch for the loss of the daily uptrend to indicate weekly consolidation is coming. That's obviously looking into next week and beyond. So short term, hourly lower high of resistance is 2250. There was a nice oversold bounce mixed in there during trading today. I just missed my US fill by pennies, but that's the way she goes sometimes. 2250 resistance followed by the all-time high. And as far as support goes, most important short term is 2126. If that breaks, daily consolidation to form a higher low will be underway. CWeb, wow, big follow through. Finally getting some convincing action. So increase in volume. Look at that volume. So the volume is almost twice the average, the 20-day average. It's the highest volume we've seen aside from quad. Actually, that wasn't quad witching day. The highest volume we've seen aside from that one day last week, highest volume in weeks, and keeping up the uptrend of daily higher lows every day and surging. 25 psychological and 26 are our resistances. A little bit of profit taking at the end of the day. Hourly higher low has not been established anytime recently. So the last hourly higher low is 2202. Bulls need to maintain that level to keep the hourly uptrend. So we can anticipate that the initial consolidation we see tomorrow or any consolidation that we see next is going to be an hourly higher low unless there's a lot of bear volume behind it. And we'll see how long we can keep this blue sky breakout run after it's been an extremely impressive move. So similar, I mean, look at the move we've seen here. That's a 40% move. So in the same exact environment where HEXO rejected from its all-time, or I should say it got the all-time high with no follow-through, CURA, or I should say CWeb, had the exact opposite scenario. It too has run 40% in 8 days, and it too was in an environment where SPY was bearish. So maybe it has something to do with US versus Canadian names. We'll have to keep an eye on it. But pretty much same scenario, but completely different end of the days. MedMen, so we were highlighting the most likely scenario as being a lower high compared to 447. It certainly looks like our lower high has been set with the close of the low of the day. If we break $4 tomorrow, that will be confirmed, and we'll look for a higher low compared to 355. Tightening range on the daily time frame anticipated, likely a break next week. IAN, also same thing. We were looking for a likely lower high compared to 806. Volume was getting a little bit toppy in the sense that we were keeping an eye out for a climax in the near term. Didn't get the climax, but clearly, again, setting the top, setting our lower high at 780. And if we see a break of 734 tomorrow, we're going to look for the pullback to the higher low and see a tightening range here. There's more space to work with. So maybe a week or two before we get a break of IAN. But IAN and MedMen, very similar standpoints to be watching. IAN certainly coming from a more bullish place from the past few months, but both are worth keeping an eye on. KHRN took some profit today, I actually sold all of KHRN today after some initial consolidation because I saw bear breaks on other individual names in the sector, and we ended up pulling back significantly from where we were standing on KHRN at that point. So I sold all my KHRN, locked in profit, because we were unable to break the all-time high in the morning, and we could see the shift in momentum in the sector overall. So then I re-entered half of that position when the bulls did shift momentum back. So I'm watching the hourly uptrend at this point, and obviously we closed weak at the end of the day, so I may exit that again in the near term. If 382 breaks tomorrow, that's a change in the hourly trend with a lower high and a lower low. And then again, we zoom out to the daily. It is a cup and handle scenario, but we better see very healthy consolidation here without much pullback and without much follow through for the bears. I would say if we can hold 370, we can potentially form a handle and then try and break to an all-time high on the cup and handle pattern. This is the kind of scenario where, as a company, you want to be sitting on some news because it is a completely different scenario for your chart and for what traders and investors are going to be looking at. If you have an all-time high double top, and then let's say, fast forward 3 weeks, we don't break the all-time high and we break $3 support, that would be significantly bearish. I don't think that's going to happen, but that would completely change the tune than if we were to get a new all-time high here and then consolidation over the next 3 weeks brings us down for a higher low compared to 301. So my point is, if you are a company, hire a technical analyst and save some news, events, something that you can have in your back pocket and say, when the timing is there to whip that out and to be able to get a clear break of that resistance and avoid that double top. Traders like blue sky breakouts. And if you want your stock price to go up, you want to be in blue sky breakout. So that's where we stand overall. We'll see if we can get some more tickers tomorrow, depending on how we feel. Still watching CGC in the tightening ranges. Definitely consolidation mode. Still very healthy consolidation overall in the sector. No major red flags at this point. FOMC on watch for tomorrow. The consolidation of the S&P 500 after the FOMC, if that's what happens, is going to be telling as to what we expect on the sector short term. Keeping in mind that the last major consolidation periods that we've seen in the MJ sector have been news-based events, whether it was voting or whether it was first day of rec sales, it was a known event. We ran into it. It was a very clear sell the news, dump kind of event. These pullbacks are going to be different this time around, in my opinion, because it's not a sell the news event. So if we are going to see significant weakness, there's a couple scenarios. Number one, it could happen slower because it's not everybody reacting on the one day that's the event day. So there's potential that we could fade. It could be a fade of daily, higher lows and then inability to continue and then dropping off and breaking the daily uptrend and then seeing, a much slower kind of consolidation play out, as opposed to dumping 20% in 3 days, which, is the kind of consolidation we have seen in the past. So just keep in mind that if we are going to see summer consolidation, spring and summer consolidation, in my opinion, it's going to look way different than the pullbacks that we've seen in the past that were much sharper and much more volatile. See you soon. Hey everyone, chapter 12 of Adventure Time, and here we are headed into Telluride, Colorado. Great little mountain town, a little bit of a ski resort kind of town, but as you can see, it's wonderful. They've got some nice old little shops lining the streets, and mostly tourists, I would say, that come in, but not too bad in terms of, it's again very small, so not too overcrowded. So I went here, like I said, on couchsurfing.org. I got in touch with people. They said, hey, there's a music festival in town. You should check it out. You can volunteer and see it for free, get a free ticket. And there's a spot just outside of town where you can camp for free as well. This is one of the areas I wish I took a picture of the road that I would have to go up every day to get to my camping spot. But in my little Honda Civic 2-wheel drive, this dirt road, steep incline with literally going, 2 feet a minute, more than that, but just navigating around these boulders that are the size of, my tires. So that was a fun adventure, but never got stuck. There's my tenting spot surrounded by a little grove of birch trees. And again, it's free 5 minutes outside of town. You can either pay $100, $200 a night to stay somewhere in town, $100, or for free just outside of town. There's the nice mesh top to my tent to leave you exposed. There's Mr. Byrne. So David Byrne of the Talking Heads, very impressed with his voice. His voice is exactly the same as it was back in the day. And they put on a good show. If you've never listened to the album by David Byrne and St. Vincent, Love This Giant, that's a good album. And it was a very entertaining show where they had a whole brass band and they were choreographed and moving around the stage. And I had never seen live performances of the Talking Heads with him back in the heyday. And just within the last month, I came across those, and I ended up being up until, 2 a.m, just going down this rabbit hole. But they were entertaining, and those were some fun shows to watch. So David Byrne, sweet show, great performance at this festival, the Ride Festival. Cake was on before them. Cake was great. They're hysterical. And then Rodrigo y Gabriel were before them. So pretty good headliners. Again, free music for the weekend and a bunch of really happy people. That's the venue. That's what's surrounding you. So just really nice nature encompassing area. and a big field. And so one of my jobs was as a volunteer, right? So I help with parking, or I help with directing people where to go for camping. In this one, this is a baseball field, obviously, and there's this one path behind me where I'm standing right now, or in the picture, and there's a dirt road, and they need to keep that dirt road clear for emergency vehicles. That's just what they have to do. So there's tents in front of me, and the stage is in front of me over here, and behind me is the camping sites with it's in the forest with a bunch of trees, and that's where the majority of people are camped. So they put me in this little doorway that's meant for, I don't know, to get from the bench on the side of the baseball field onto the field. And they put a chair there, and they had me sit there. So everybody after the show that's wanting to come back to their tenting site walks straight here to me and tries to get through. And I have to tell them, you can't get through here. It's an emergency road. Sorry. You have to go all the way around. And it's not a huge deal. The patient, understanding people among the group were saying, okay, and they would go walk the extra couple hundred yards. But it was an extra couple hundred yards, and it was illogical. You're looking at your tent 200 feet away, and I'm telling you, you have to go walk multiple football fields in a big loop around the outside fence all the way back around. So I'm dealing with a music festival crowd of messed up people, and they're arguing with me, and they're giving me so much hate. And I'm just saying, guys, I'm doing what I'm told to see free music. This has nothing to do with me. Please just go walk around the fence. And these belligerent people, some of them were spitting their venom on me, but fortunately I was able to. I can remember it being very stressful, but got through it. Gondola, there's the town of Telluride, heading up the mountain. Great spot to go. Again, another little great town to check out. And that's that. After that, headed over met some nice, cool people. And that was another thing. Again, I don't really, when I'm traveling by myself, I'm in the nature alone most of the time. I interact with people so infrequently that normally, I like being alone. But in these instances, it was good to hang out with people. And I did make some friends and, go hang out with them and go eat some dinner and things like that. So that's always fun. After this, went over saw another show. I went to Red Rocks to see String Cheese Incident. So we'll go there next. Hope you have a good day.